Monsters have always been a ubiquitous part of society, whether it's the boogeyman in English tales, the Krampus roaming European forests, the Baba Yaga lurking in Slavic folklore, the Oni haunting Japanese legends, or the Bunyip prowling in indigenous stories. They all share a common denominator. The creation of monsters is reactionary, reflecting contextual societal fears and ultimately reinforcing social boundaries. They are shaped by their unique historical and cultural milieus to embody the collective tensions that mankind struggles with. Yet ironically, we often find monsters as a critical, self-introspective remark on our shared human experience, which speaks to their perennial place in literature. Accordingly, Kafka's allegorical novella The Metamorphosis 1915 is a perennial critique on society drawing from a confluence of economic, personal, and psychological contexts. Writing as a German-speaking Jew in Prague, Kafka explores the prevailing sense of alienation he encounters in a predominantly Czech-speaking city. Furthermore, the fantasy-lit European landscape was largely shaped by industrialization. Reflecting his own experience working at a workers' institute, Kafka's Monster metaphorically critiques the bureaucratic dehumanization of individuals by contextual societal and familial norms. Yet what is undoubtedly most influential in Kafka's writing of The Metamorphosis is Sigmund Freud's widespread work on psychoanalytic theory, revolutionizing Western psychology in his time. This is especially true for his theories on the id, which denotes individuals' repressed internal thoughts. Indeed, Kafka's Monster can be interpreted as a manifestation of Gregor Samsa's id, and the resulting story as a portrayal of the psychological divide between the id, ego, and superego. Accordingly, we will proceed with a Freudian lens that will ultimately offer deeper and richer analysis on the kind of didactic monster Gregor Samsa is. Kafka presents a manufactured monster born from the psychological fractures and superegos imposed by capitalist society and familial obligation, an embodiment of the repressed id unleashed under intensifying societal pressure. The metamorphosis begins in media res, with Gregor Samsa waking up already transformed, and yet it seems that only we, the confused reader, ever seems to question the reason behind this transformation. Kafka draws from absurdism and employs ostromania to deny the reader any rational foundation. By normalizing the unnatural, he mirrors the surrealism of dreams, in which the chaotic and instinctively repressed part of the psyche, the id, dominates. Indeed, as Walter Sokol suggests in his work Kafka's Metamorphosis, Reflection and Punishment, Samsa's transformation can be seen as a devil's gift to his id, parallel with Goethe's legend of the Faust. Like Faust, this gift leads to the ultimate alienation from humanity. Further, Gregor's backstory and feelings are expressed through somewhat arbitrary streams of consciousness throughout the story, notably in, why was Gregor the only one condemned to work in a firm where at the slightest lapse someone immediately attracted the greatest suspicion? Were all the employees then collectively one and all scoundrels? These internal rhetorical questions further support the thesis that Kafka's monster is a manifestation of the id. Gregor's conscious mind, the ego, wishes to reconcile with the clerk, yet he inadvertently, through his grotesque appearance, frightens the clerk. In his pursuit of the clerk, as he describes, he subverts power dynamics, fulfilling his vexation towards his job that he expresses in tangential streams of consciousness, which are representational of his id. From this lens, Gregor's metamorphosis has externalized his unconscious suppressed rebellion, reflecting Freud's work, The Psychopathology of Everyday Life, in which he theorizes that accidents, in this case Gregor's sudden metamorphosis, are merely a manifestation of the id. Yet this monstrous rebellion is ultimately shaped by the corrosive utilitarian constraints society places on him, mirroring Kafka's experience in industrial Europe. His filial duty, as is for Kafka, is represented through the superego, his internalization of his role as a breadwinner, which is compounded by his father's resentment towards his economic futility. The story's ironic and cyclical ending, with the family resuming normal routine, symbolizes both the absurdism of capitalist logic, but also the prevailing of the superego, represented by the family over the id, manifested through Gregor. Ultimately, Kafka's Metamorphosis reveals how monsters are manufactured through the intersection of oppressive social structures and internal psychological conflict, with Samsa's transformation symbolizing the externalization of a suppressed id against capitalist and familial demands. Juxtaposing modernist and postmodernist frameworks, the id is personified onto society itself, highlighting its role in constructing monstrosity through repression, voyeurism, and moral hypocrisy. The Elephant Man, 1980, by David Lynch follows a loose biographical account of Joseph Merrick. Set within late Victorian England amongst values of physiognomy and Darwinism, Merrick's deformities were commodified through spectacles and an object of morbid fascination by scientists. Almost a century later, David Lynch produces a quiet masterpiece that challenges 1980s American norms, demonstrating the perennial significance of monsters in humanity. Lynch challenges contemporary meta-narratives of Reaganomics and technocracy by retelling a modern-day Action, a misunderstood monster manufactured by stubborn societal values. By evoking pathos, Lynch creates moral ambiguity as we ask ourselves who the real monster is between society and Joseph Merrick. Ultimately, the Elephant Man posits that monstrosity is not genetically inherent, but instead manufactured by the dehumanizing dogmas of their respective societies. David Lynch utilizes chiaroscuro lighting to create a sharp contrast between light and dark, reinforced by the monochromatic cinematography. While shots of spectators, doctors, and showmen are bathed in light, they are juxtaposed by the darkness of those that are on Merrick. Through this, Lynch interrogates the authoritative mechanism by which capitalism and scientific rationalism dehumanize the human body and the consequent portrayal in society as morally righteous. This mirrors the 1980s American anti-institutional sentiment after Watergate, the Cold War, and fears of mass surveillance. Furthermore, born in the cultural legacy of McCarthyism, David Lynch challenges social dichotomies between the normative and the other, subverting Gothic tropes by giving this monster a moral consciousness. In doing so, he makes us question whether Joseph Merrick is a metaphorical mirror to society, whose exploitation and alienation of the other makes it more monstrous than Merrick himself. In viewing The Elephant Man, William Holiday postulates that the film depicts a pre-Oedipal fairy tale, in which Merrick's libido and emotions are portrayed as similar to that of a prepubescent boy. Lynch utilizes missed-on scenes of Merrick's and Trevor's rooms to exhibit multiple artworks of mothers and their children. This is reinforced by the Kuleshov effect, coupled with a melancholic soundtrack in the penultimate scene, eliciting empathy in the audience by portraying him in a childlike lens. Lynch further antagonizes society and us as the viewer through the point of view shot in Merrick's cathartic speech, polemicizing the public's dehumanizing and immoral complicity in enforcing the label of monster upon him. David Lynch interrogates the moral ambiguity of the monstrous between the individual and society by suggesting that monsters are created from societal othering of outliers that fall outside of its corrosive and punitive metrics. Both pieces of literature have created monsters reactionary to the author's context, forming insightful critiques on their respective societies. Therefore, we, as viewers, must recognize literary monsters and their potential to reconstruct our socio-political landscape.